All this is for daring to question the things that we are all told we cannot question, and for asking for evidence from the people who claim they use the scientific method to reach their far-fetched facts. All of those researchers who have gone out and tried to research things for themselves, who have tried to test and find proofs, all have been met with an unfathomable amount of hate, ridicule, shaming, name-calling, threats, and much, much more, simply because they question the globe. To question the truth should be welcomed. Why would anyone get upset because you questioned the accepted facts and figures? Well, welcome to the world of Flat Earth. What Flat Earth has done in 2 years is caused more people to read and research and test, not to mention to appreciate the world where we all live, than science has done in the previous 10 years combined. And while the comment section below will be riddled with name-calling, moron, idiot, fool, don't procreate, etc., please understand that these are just people doing science, and for some reason, science has a problem with that. So, while those who hate anyone who questions what they already swear is the truth do absolutely nothing to better humanity, those of us who do care about others are trying to expose the biggest lie in the history of mankind. Not for personal gain, not for fame and fortune, not for millions of dollars, but simply because they want everyone to at the very least get a chance to research the accusations we are making. Instead of the scientific community testing, or explaining or sharing the ways we know the things to be true, we are laughed at, ridiculed, and given Dumb of the Year awards. Pretty convenient. Every day that passes, NASA gets another $50 million, and science continues their research with faulty foundations and untrue axioms. Yet still, rather than join us in simply asking for evidence of some of science's more grandiose claims, those who you'll see in the comments below will swear by it, defend it, and not with science and proof, but with name-calling and hate. Science must be testable, and it must be falsifiable. So I challenge you to go back 500 years and track the science behind astronomy and cosmology. Track the scientific tests and find the proof that Earth spins. Find the test that says we are 93 million miles away from the Sun. Find the test that shows that we orbit the Sun. Find the proof that the Big Bang took place, and find the proof that we are not sitting dead smack in the center of the universe. What were their observations, and did they make decisions based on those observations? Or did they make decisions based on philosophical criteria? Science? Philosophical criteria? Yes, we're told that science uses the scientific method, and that all our so-called truths have passed through these steps and tests. But if you do the research, you may just reach the conclusion that many of us already have.
So where's the edge?
Who's to say that there is an edge, and why assume there is one? Is it because when we are introduced to the idea of a flat earth, it's always depicted like this? In the currently most accepted model, Antarctica is not a continent, but a 360-degree landmass made up of ice that holds the oceans within. When we look at a Gleason's map from 1892 that states at the top that it's scientifically and practically correct, as is. We see this Antarctic ice rim. The Gleason's map is basically an azimuthal equidistant projection, which can be traced back to the year 1000. The AE map is also an official map of the United States Geological Survey, the USGS, and the official logo for the United Nations. The oldest known globe in the world is from 1492. This is something you need to keep in mind because many people argue that the azimuthal equidistant map is just a flattened out version of the globe, when in fact the globe is just a rounded version of this true world flat map. If the flat map came first and it has the ability to convert into a globe without any problems whatsoever, then that should tell you a little bit about how this globe deception was achieved. Now, back to if there is an edge or not. There is no proof that there is an edge past the Antarctic ice wall, but it is speculated by many that perhaps the plane that we live on is either extremely expansive or it's possibly endless. In these two scenarios, it would be logically assumed that more land is being hidden from the general public. In a 1954 interview with Admiral Richard E. Byrd, an American naval officer who specialized in exploration, he had this to say.
But strangely enough, there is left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole, on the other side of the South Pole, from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
Implying that there is more land past Antarctica. If that uninhabited land was on a globe, it would be in the Indian Ocean. A recent discovery of an old Buddhist map in a newspaper from 1907 seems to support the idea of a vast plain with much more land.
Where does the sun go if the Earth is flat?
Well, the sun neither rises nor sets, but travels in a clockwise circuit from east to west, and only appears to rise and set due to perspective. The sun disappears at the vanishing point of human perspective on the horizon where the ground meets the sky, and since the sun is not 93 million miles away, I repeat, not 93 million miles away, but much closer and smaller, the light emanating from the sun only illuminates about half of the flat plane at once as it makes its daily journey.
What's underneath the flat Earth?
This is obviously an unanswerable question since the assumed edge has never been known to be reached, but many people suppose that whether the Earth is round or flat, that either way, it still must be floating in the middle of outer space. But the idea of outer space goes out the window with the round Earth theory. Many religious texts support an immovable Earth that has its foundations on which it is laid, and its pillars by which it is supported. We simply don't know, but we do know that the Earth is obviously fixed in place, as we can tell by our everyday experience of non-movement. What we see in the skies above are illuminated objects making circles around us just as it appears. Whatever this place may be, it's the center of all we survey. Some say that the Earth is the floor of the universe. In the ancient Hebrew conception of the universe, we are surrounded by the waters above and the waters below, known as the Great Deep. The deepest hole ever drilled into the Earth was a total of about 7.5 miles. The very core of the Earth is nothing more than wild speculation, if not another malicious lie. So what's under the Earth? That remains a mystery to us all. But another thing that you can research is what's inside the Earth. Multi-billion-dollar deep underground military bases known as DUMBs, D-U-M-Bs, right?
What about ships and boats disappearing over the horizon?
This is also due to human perspective. They don't go over the horizon, they go into the horizon, moving beyond the limit of our vision and past the vanishing point. But the ships and boats are easily brought back into view with a pair of binoculars, a telescope, and any camera with a good zoom lens. A great question to ask yourself is why can't we see noticeable curvature from 120,000 feet up? But many people claim that the supposed curvature can be seen from the ground by watching boats. It doesn't make sense.
And what about all of the pictures of the Earth?
They are all clearly computer-generated images. They claim this picture from Apollo 17 in 1972 is real, and they also claim that the 2015 epic Earth picture is real. But NASA employee Robert Simon gave us a glimpse of how they do it when he shared his experience of creating the Blue Marble 2.0 in 2002. He is now called Mr. Blue Marble. He was interviewed and on record stating, "The last time anyone took a photograph from above low Earth orbit that showed an entire hemisphere, one side of the globe, was in 1972 during Apollo 17. NASA's Earth Observing System, EOS, satellites were designed to give a checkup of Earth's health. By 2002, we finally had enough data to make a snapshot of the entire Earth, so we did."
In 2002, Blue Marble 2.0, NASA's Rob Simon made this. Simon's job is...
It's primarily taking data and making pictures out of it.
That's what this is, a composite of data sets from several different instruments translated into a picture.
So we actually had to take clouds out.
They stashed the clouds for later, went onto the ocean. That came from an instrument that measures phytoplankton in the sea.
Where it was low, I colored it dark blue because they're low mostly in mid-oceans. And then where it's a little bit higher, it was like a little bit brighter green.
Then add the clouds back in.
There's a small problem with it because there's a very slight gap in between each orbit.
So some of those are painted on.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Then
there was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere.
And then there's this little bright spot.
It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water.
Those are the pieces, but you can't just slap them all together.
It just didn't look realistic. It looks kind of flat, or the clouds are sort of too see-through. So I just take Command Z a lot.
There's artistry to creating the world.
What I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space. But I've looked at these images over and over again, trying to sort of get the essence of it. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Why are all the other planets round then?
When you compare amateur footage done with professional grade cameras and compare it to NASA's official images of planets and stars, it's clear that NASA images are all computer generated, no different than the photos of Earth. What have become known as planets are round lights that seem to be set over the flat Earth. The so-called planets and stars are not what we have been told they are, and comparing luminous objects that you see in the sky to the Earth under your feet is very ineffective for actually proving the supposed rotundity of the Earth. Since there are no actual photographs of the Earth and motion has never been experienced or proven, it would seem more logical for one to assume that we are on a flat motionless plane and everything we see in the heavens revolves around us.
What about satellites and GPS?
As crazy as it may sound, satellites are a hoax. Have you ever wondered why there are never any damaged or fallen satellites? And why there are no satellite malfunctions due to constant heating and cooling? It's weird they don't melt in the thermosphere that's over 2,000 degrees. I find myself looking at the moon and wondering why we never see satellites pass by the moon. Did you know there are thousands of miles of fiber optic cables under the seabed that supplies 90% of the Earth's communication, internet, phones, etc.? And GPS works off of cell phone towers. It's called triangulation. Haven't you seen those really tall towers and wondered what they are? Satellite TV is just enhanced radio using ground-based towers. It's all ground-based, just like the old TV antenna. Science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke proposed the idea of geostationary satellites in 1945 in a magazine called Wireless World. And 20 years later, in 1965, they claim to have successfully launched the first commercial geostationary communication satellite. Today, there are said to be thousands, but the odd thing is that trying to prove it only leaves you fruitless.
Is outer space even real?
Yes and no. What you see in the sky, as far as stars and wandering stars, also known as planets, are there. How could we deny them? We don't know what they actually are, but they are there. Now, what we are told about outer space and what it is not true at all. Everything we believe about so-called outer space is due mostly to Hollywood movies and other media, including children's cartoons. Of course, NASA propaganda is the biggest culprit. As we have already gone over, there are no pictures of Earth, and even images of all the other so-called planets are computer-generated. NASA has gone on record numerous times stating that humans can't get past low Earth orbit.
NASA's next spacecraft, already being built and tested across America, will do those things and more.
This is the spacecraft that's going to take humans to explore the solar system. It's the next big step for NASA in exploration.
Called the Orion Multipurpose Crew Vehicle, or MPCV, this next-generation spacecraft will enable America to explore beyond low Earth orbit.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
Plan that NASA has is to build a rocket called SLS, which is a heavy lift rocket. It's something that is much bigger than what we have today, and it will be able to launch the Orion capsule with humans on board, as well as landers or other components to destinations beyond Earth orbit. Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
And unlike the previous program, we are setting a course with specific and achievable milestones. Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
Low Earth orbit is supposedly between 99 and 1,200 miles away. The funny thing is that they say the moon is over 200,000 miles away. How did we make it so far in the 1960s and 70s if we can't do it today? Also, the International Space Station, just like everything else brought to us by NASA, is a fake Freemasonic hoax, completely fabricated and done with special effects, models, pools, zero-G planes, and various other camera tricks.
How is circumnavigation possible on a flat Earth?
Very easily. You can travel east and west directions to ultimately end up right back where you started. The face of the Earth looks similar to that of a clock. In fact, clocks were most likely designed after the true appearance of our world. If you follow a compass east for long enough, you'll make a full circuit. Same thing if you travel west long enough. As we've already gone over, the flat Earth map that was around before globes were easily converts to a globe, so everything you believe you are doing on a globe is actually taking place on a flat Earth.
How come the moon is upside down in the southern hemisphere?
This is another very simple explanation. When somebody is in the northern part of the Earth, or on the northern part of the Earth, they see the moon from this angle. When somebody is on the southern part of the Earth, the moon looks like this. They're looking at it from this angle. They see it from the opposite angle, and that's all it is. Imagine you tape a picture of the moon in the center of your living room, right? Depending on where you are in the room, the moon will be seen differently. When pondering this question, keep in mind that the face of the moon never changes. On a spherical Earth, we'd expect to see other sides, but we never have.
What about the seasons?
The sun is close and small, and it circles around and above the flat Earth in a spiral pattern on the Tropic of Cancer in the northern summer months, and then down in the Tropic of Capricorn in the northern winter months. So when the sun is further away from the North Pole, right, the center of the flat Earth, it's winter in the north and summer in the south. Since the sun is smaller than we are told and closer, it makes much more sense that we experience seasons in the first place. If the sun was 93 million miles away and had a radius of over 400,000 miles, we would hardly experience temperature fluctuation as we do.
What about gravity?
Gravity is necessary in order for a spinning ball Earth to work. People readily believe that you can't fall off of a spinning ball that's darting through outer space at speeds that you can't even comprehend, yet they will deny how much easier it is to stay on a flat surface that doesn't move. Gravity is a scapegoat for all that cannot be explained, and it has never been proven. The reason why things fall or float is because of density and buoyancy. If something is heavier than air, it falls. If it's lighter than air, it floats. Very straightforward. Your phone is denser than the air, therefore it falls when you drop it. Everything works because of density. No need to factor in imaginary components. Quote, "The law of gravitation is said by the advocates of the Newtonian system of astronomy to be the greatest discovery of science, and the foundation of the whole of modern astronomy. If, therefore, it can be shown that gravitation is a pure assumption, and an imagination of the mind only, that it has no existence outside of the brains of its expounders and advocates, the whole of the hypotheses of this modern so-called science fall to the ground as flat as the surface of the ocean, and this most exact of all sciences, this wonderful feat of the intellect, becomes at once the most ridiculous superstition and the most gigantic imposture to which ignorance and credulity could ever be exposed. Thomas Winship, Zetetic Cosmogony.
Howdy, I've been looking at the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, which is the longest bridge in the world, and it's in Louisiana. 24-mile long bridge. So I wanted to see how they worked out the curvature building this bridge, because in 24 miles they should have to deal with 384 feet of curvature. And I even looked at a documentary from Modern Marvels that 45 minutes long, but they finally got to the point, and it was this. They threw this up as they were going to a commercial, and it was 35 minutes in, so I barely caught it. But this is what they're to compensate for the curvature of the Earth. The Lake Pontchartrain Causeway was built roughly 2 inches longer than the distance it spans. 2 inches for 384 feet. Then I just started checking out some other bridges. This is the top 10 bridges, or top 10 longest bridges. You can see it's not far behind Lake Pontchartrain, the next one. And there's, they're all above 100 so far now, just dipping under. And then, yeah, look at this one. This one, Lisbon's Vasco da Gama Bridge, is 56,381 feet, 10.7 miles. So that is 76 feet of curvature that you should see, 76 feet of drop. So that's about a fifth of what the Lake Pontchartrain drop is, 384. So if Lake Pontchartrain just had to use 2 inches of extra road, these guys probably didn't have to use hardly any to cover that whole 76 feet of drop. And I thought I'd show you guys how I'm figuring out how much curvature we should be seeing. So in the first mile you get 8 inches of drop. So for the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, we'll take 24 squared times that 8 inches, and then you can divide it by 12 to get your feet, and that's 384 feet of curvature that they should have to deal with, but they only had to add 2 inches of road for that. So okay, that's been explained. Now back to work. Thanks for tuning in.
I would like to show you a couple of emergency landings that prove the flat Earth, and it is really difficult to hide it. So let's look at this. And the first one is the Cathay Pacific flight from Hong Kong to Los Angeles, and that landed at the Erickson Air Station in Shemya Island, Alaska. So let's look at this, shall we, on the map as we know it. So the map as we know it, the globe map, Hong Kong to Los Angeles, that straight line basically over the ocean. Now, if you look at this, this is where the Erickson Air Station is, right here. And Hawaii is the island right underneath. Now, both towns, Hong Kong and Los Angeles, have a hot climate. And so why didn't they go to Hawaii rather than going to Alaska, going up north? That doesn't make sense. So why didn't just go further on and reach Los Angeles? That makes no sense. Except if you look at the flat Earth map. here is Hong Kong, and here is Los Angeles, and Hawaii is way further, so it's not even on the way, but Alaska, the Erickson Air Station, is. So how do you want to explain this to me, that the globe Earth is still true, while the emergency landing proves that they landed in Alaska? Well, you can check the links if you want to. These are valid links. I saved them as well in PDF, but you can see that these are all true news, what I'm saying. Here you can see Hong Kong to Los Angeles and landing in Alaska. The Erickson Air Station is Shemya, Alaska. All right, that's the first one. It's going to be painful. The next one, China Airlines flight landed in Alaska again because there was an expectant mother. The flight started in Taiwan and was flying to Los Angeles and had to make an emergency landing in the Ted Stevens Anchorage Airport in Alaska. So let's look at this, right? This is the map as we know it. Taiwan to Los Angeles. Again, Hawaii would have been closer, but again, they chose to go to Alaska. Again, the climate wouldn't reason it to go up to Alaska to this cold climate, but they still went up there. Does it make sense that you go straight through the ocean and make an emergency exit up north? That makes no sense. People question this. And if you look at the flat earth map, you will see that Taiwan is here. The Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport, Alaska, is somewhere here, and Los Angeles is here. It's right on the way. Okay, and I'm going to show you again. Here are all the links. You can check it out yourself until it's still up there, until they are not going to take it down. There you go. This is a real news on the Daily Mail. The Taiwan to Los Angeles flight. And as you can see, the China Airlines, they landed in Alaska. And you can see it in detail. They even made a video about giving birth of the child. And so it's not made up. It's right there. You can read it yourself and prove it. How does it make sense on a globe Earth? It makes no sense whatsoever. Now let's look at the third one I found. Probably there are more. There was an incident. A young Italian girl died on a flight to Germany, and they made an emergency landing. Okay, the flight was from Shanghai, China, to Munich, Germany, and they made an emergency landing in Yemelyanov International Airport in Krasnoyarsk, Russia. Okay, let's look at the map. So Shanghai to Munich, going over China, probably Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, and I don't know what country this is. I can't see it on the map, and I don't remember. Ukraine, maybe Hungary, where is this? Probably Slovakia, then Austria, and Germany. Okay, but they made an emergency exit here, up north again, airport in Krasnoyarsk, Russia. How does it make sense? Well, it doesn't unless you look at the flat earth map and you see the Shanghai, China, and Krasnoyarsk, Russia, and Munich, Germany are on the same line. So again, they made emergency exit on the way, of course. It makes sense. So I would like you to question things and look at these evidences. This is a clear proof. Again, I'm going to open it for you. You can see this is real news. I'm not making this up. And there you go, a young Italian girl. I quoted everything that was here. The international airport, Krasnoyarsk, York, Russia, and Shanghai, China to Munich, emergency exit. You can read the whole thing if you want to. Read it until they take this down. So again, 3 emergency landing proof for the flat earth. Please understand this. This is the truth, and don't accept the lie, the fairy tale of science, religion.
All right, so what I want to show you is some footage that I took on December the 18th at 2:35 p.m. And what we have here is the moon, a daylight shot of the moon with the sun also. As Jaron would say, let's roll that beautiful bean footage. And like I said, this is 2:35 p.m. in Tennessee, December 18th, 2015. We'll pull out here now, and I want to just show you that we have the sun is shining. Of course, you can tell the sun's shining. So I'll pan over here. No edits, no cuts. It's just a straight pan to show the sun's in the sky. No big deal. We have the moon and the sun in the sky here at the same time. So I wanted to check all the way around the backside of the globe, Australia. Yes, Australia, we have the moon at 52.8%, and it's 4:32:51 a.m. I think the sun will rise. I looked at it as I can remember. It either said 5:38 a.m. or 5:39. So what's a minute? They can see 52% of the moon in Australia at the same time, apparently, that we can see from Nashville, Tennessee. Let's see here. Yep, 52.8% also in Nashville, Tennessee. At a time of, I think it says 2:54. And I may not be getting the times right, but you know, they're very close here. And of course, it's December 18th here. So what I want to get to is a little Google map here and show you that there's the United States. I've actually got it marked on Tennessee. And we spin the Google globe around to Perth, Australia. I think it's 11,100 something miles. I'm not exactly sure. But explain to me how in the world, if the moon is in Australia, you can see it in the United States, or vice versa, the moon's in the United States and you can see it in Australia. So I got a little experiment here with a globe and a moon we're going to do. There we go. Here comes our moon in. Here's South America. And you see the United States rotating around. So everybody's seeing the moon here in Tennessee and the United States also. And as our moon comes around the globe, we see that here comes Australia. And right now, there's no way you could see the moon in the United States. But they say you can. There's no way on a ball that you're going to tell me that you can be on one side of the ball and see on the other side of the ball. I took this outside with a globe, set it up, and even if I get up high or low, and with the globe tilted at 23 degrees, there's just no way. It doesn't matter how far you walk back to look at it, you cannot see the opposite side of the globe. It's not going to happen. Flat Earth, it's over. The moon shows the truth. It is a flat plane that we live on.
Hello, I thought I'd show you what you get if you Google curvature of the Earth. Mostly disinfo and misleading info on the first 2 pages of your Google search, including this very first one right here. In an earlier question on the curvature of the Earth, Harley showed that the Earth curves approximately 8 inches per mile. And it's 8 inches for the first mile, but it varies inversely with the square of the mile after that. So you have to square each mile and then times it times 8. If you don't do that, you get answers like 6 feet and 9 miles when it should be 54 feet and 9 miles. And if we click on this, you can see somebody called in or wrote in and asked Penny a question. She answered it. That's what you saw on the front, which is wrong. And then just below it, it says, in April 2004, we received a message from Jerry, a retired engineer, who pointed out an error in my solution. So all the way from 2004, and this is the first result from the Google search. So they're using something from 2004 that's totally wrong. You know, this guy Jerry does explain it down here using the Pythagorean theorem and does it right. So you get the right solution, but why aren't they showing this in that little window instead of the wrong answer? It's because Google's a bad guy too. And if you look, the next couple of links are taking you to the exact same page. So the first 3 links are taking you to Math Central, which is wrong info. And I've seen this on a lot of videos and in a lot of comments lately, so I know that's what's happening. People are going to Google and they see this and they say, oh, here it is. They take it and take off. Wikipedia is wrong. They even have a warning on their site about, here, I'll show you that real quick. It's got a whole bunch of different formulas for, you know, just to get confused on. About right here. This section has multiple issues. This section does not cite any references or sources. This article's factual accuracy is disputed. So don't trust Wiki. Be careful of Google. Look at this. Exact formula for the spherical Earth. So they give you the formula, but then they take you up to a satellite that's 2,000 kilometers above the Earth and then say, okay, figure it out with all these numbers. So they don't make it easy for you. And if you want easy, you're going to have to get all the way to the 3rd page. Actually, when I did this yesterday, the first 2 pages had all bunk information that I wouldn't share with anybody. But I will point out that today's search brought up one other guy, and it's this one. The Earth curvature for high pointers showed up on the 2nd page today, and this guy actually does a pretty good job. So I would probably share his site with somebody that was trying to learn it, but I wouldn't share any of these other ones, like Yahoo Answers. The number 1 answer is wrong. There is the right answer on there, like about 8 down, but it's at the very bottom. And it's not shown as the right answer. So that's what you're going to find in the first 2 pages. If you make it to the 3rd page, which I don't think most people do, you will find right here, look at this right at the top, the Atlantean Conspiracy, which is Eric Dubay, and he explains it very well because he wants you to understand the formula, and he wants you to be able to go out and check the curvature of the Earth for yourself. So yeah, he explains it very well, while the others are not, and confusing you because they don't want you to be able to do that. So I'll leave you with Eric talking about the curvature of the Earth. And thanks for tuning in. Cheers.
Experiments have been done and repeated, calculations have been made, and you can make them yourself to prove that the Earth doesn't have the curvature that they say it does. So if we are living on a ball, they say it's 25,000 miles in circumference, and using spherical trigonometry it goes out to there being 8 inches per mile, varying inversely with the square of the mile, which means that after the first mile there's an 8-inch drop. After the second mile, 2 squared, 4 times 8 is 32, so it's 32 inches. After the next mile, 3 miles, 3 times 3, 9, times 8, 72 inches. So this is the kind of dip that you get on a sphere. 25,000 miles in circumference. You can use the Pythagorean theorem to figure this out. NASA agrees with this number anyway, so it's not a debated number that it goes down this way. What is debated is whether it actually does so. So there's been experiments done using flags, using laser leveling, using sextants and theodolites and different instruments to check over a series of miles whether this curvature is actually happening or not. And time again, when you take these measurements, there's no curvature whatsoever, not even a little bit of curve. So even if they got the circumference of the ball Earth off by, say, 4 times, if it was 100,000 miles around instead of 25,000, you'd still have some measurable, calculable curvature, which just isn't there when you take these measurements. And anyone can do them. You just need a flat area long enough. They've done measurements over 6 miles, 10 miles, 20 miles, and then with things like lighthouses, you can see the light from lighthouses at sea, depending on where you are and how high the light is, for over 100 miles, much further than you could on a ball Earth, even with refraction.